Police today announcing a $500,000 reward in connection to a missing persons case in the far north. 44-year-old Melbourne woman Kathleen O'Shea, last seen in December 2005 at the Atherton Hotel west of Cairns. An inquest into her disappearance back in 2014 concluded she'd most likely been murdered a short time after. Detective Senior Sergeant Brett Devine is urging anyone with information to contact police.
Miss O'Shea, known as Katie, resided in Melbourne but was visiting her son in Ravenshoe for the birth of her first grandchild. She was last seen on December the 29th, 2005. She was reported missing by her family on the 13th of January 2006. On the morning of December 29, Miss O'Shea told a friend she was going to walk into the Ravenshoe town centre and her son Alan would pick her up. Alan picked her up, drove her into the Atherton township at around midday. She told him she was going to play pool at the Atherton Hotel with a friend. In 2014, a coronial inquest was held into the circumstances around Katie's disappearance. We believe a person or persons are responsible for her death. Katie was known as a happy, fun-loving and devoted mother. Detectives and her children have never stopped searching for answers. We are urging anyone with information to come forward with anything they think may be relevant about this lady's disappearance. Certainly her family are seeking some closure.
So that was Detective Senior Sergeant Brett Devine, and this $500,000 reward comes only a week after police confirmed $1 million had been paid to several people following the arrest in India of a man alleged to have killed Cairns woman Toya Cordingley back in 2018. So whilst not all rewards lead to convictions, some do. Why is it that some rewards are successful and others are not? Dr Terry Goldsworthy spent 28 years in the Queensland Police Service before becoming an Associate Professor of Criminology at Bond University, and Dr Terry's with us this afternoon. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, good afternoon.
In a nearly 20-year-old cold case where there have been a couple of people of interest for a long time, but there's never been an arrest made, what might a $500,000 reward do for solving this crime?
Well, I mean, what it does is it's designed to free up information. So, generally, incidents like this, a reward would be put forward where there's a murder, a suspected murder or other serious offence. There's no clear suspect identified. You may have persons of interest, but you still don't have a firm suspect. And you require further information to allow the investigation to proceed. And without that information, it's unlikely the investigation will be successful. So if you can kind of tick those factors, then police will look at rewards because they're an extra tool to use in their investigations. And the idea being that it will drive the search for information along. There may be people who have been reluctant to come forward, who will come forward if they perceive some material benefit, etc. So that's the benefit of a reward. We don't offer them, I should say we used to not offer them at the beginning of investigations. That has changed in recent times, but generally they're offered down the track when traditional investigation techniques have not resulted in a conviction or anyone being charged.
The age-old adage is that money talks, but criminals don't. The idea being that the criminal code, will mean that no one will ever snitch on someone else, but we know that is not always the case. Why will it be that people might not talk for 10 or 20 or 30 years in a cold case, but a reward gets offered and suddenly some people will come forward?
Well, that's right. And, we got some information from the QPS a number of years ago that covered from 2000 to 2010. And it showed us that in 157 cases, police did pay out rewards, and a number of them were for murders. So they paid out about $1 million in rewards. And the murders tended to sit around $50,000, etc. So, rewards are quite an active tool the police use to generate that information. And, things change, relationships change, people's viewpoint on life change. Someone may find out that they're sick and they haven't got long to live and want to clear the slate and clear things up. You never know what the motivation of someone coming forward providing information is going to be. But, that profit motive, I mean, most criminals are driven by profit. You put that profit or monetary incentive out there, you can often shake the tree and get some fruit falling from it.
Are there instances where people will come forward with information, Terry Goldsworthy, but the information actually implicates them, and so they don't get the reward, but it does actually lead to the solving of the crime?
Look, that can occur, and if you look at reward notices, the Queensland Police Service has many reward notices sitting on its website, and there's always an aspect that says indemnity from prosecution. So there they're talking about you will be able to access an appropriate indemnity from prosecution as long as you're not the person who actually committed the crime. So if you're an accomplice down the track and perhaps played a minor role, you may be able to access it. But, they will look at those on a case-by-case basis, and it's at the sole discretion of the commissioner on behalf of the government as to whether the sum of money is payable, whether you get the whole amount of money or you get part of the money, etc. So it's not a given just because you come forward with information someone's arrested that you may get the money, especially if you had an active role in the offence.
How often would it be, Terry Goldsworthy, that information comes in during an investigation because a reward's been offered and you end up having to spend resources chasing it down? It turns out to be fruitless. I'd imagine that is just something you have to accept when you put out a reward.
Yeah, it is. Look, that's just par for the course. So, there is a resource element to this that will tie up police resources. But, police often get what we call information overload. So not all information that you get in relation to investigations is relevant. You need to determine whether it has a relevance in terms of identifying and prosecuting the offender for a particular offence you're looking at. And we've seen rewards. I kind of talked about rewards being used earlier. And what we have seen is that police are now, for instance, the Cleo Smith, the young girl taken for 19 days in WA, the police rolled out a reward in that matter of $1 million within about 3 or 4 days, which is kind of the antithesis of what we have used rewards for, where they're years down the track. And that was done, I think, to keep a lot of media attention on that particular investigation, and also to put a lot of pressure on the suspect in that investigation.
We only in the last week learnt that the $1 million reward that was being offered for information that led to the arrest of a suspect in the Toyah Cordingley murder, that it had been paid to several people. Now, there's no more information other than that it had been paid to several people related to the arrest of a man alleged to have killed Toyah Cordingley. What might be the difference in a case like that where there has been, the reward has been paid out and there has been an arrest made, compared to some of these long-running cold cases where even though there is a reward, they still never get solved?
Yeah, it's interesting. The Toyah Cordingley reward was offered in a matter where they knew who the suspect was. So that reward is really about locating a identified suspect, which is different to some of the other rewards that you'll see on the, for instance, QPS website, where there's unknown offenders and they're just talking about the offence and seeking information that may lead them to identify suspects. So generally that's when a reward will be used, when there's an unknown offender, but you do have those exceptions like the one you just mentioned, where they're used for identifying a location of a known offender so that that person can be brought to justice.
It's a pretty bleak page that is up online where they've got all the cases where rewards are still on offer. Some of these cases go back, 50 years or more for missing people or suspected murders and the like. Do these rewards, even if they don't necessarily lead to an arrest and a case isn't closed, do they offer hope to the family that at least the police have taken this seriously enough to offer a reward, even if an arrest is never made?
Yeah, I think it does. It shows that the matter is ongoing, that there is still a form of action being taken in relation to the investigation, and many of them are what we term cold cases. The investigation is exhausted. What we can also see in regards to rewards is that they can be used as part of a investigative tactical approach. So you may come up to a 10-year anniversary of someone who's missing. You've shown that there's no proof of life, so it's a suspected murder. And on the 10-year anniversary, police may engage in releasing a reward, doing a media campaign, and they will have some covert strategies perhaps going in the background, especially if they have people of interest who they suspect may be involved in foul play. So rewards can operate in conjunction with other police investigative tools.
Terry Goldsworthy, thanks for joining us this afternoon.
Thanks, no worries.
That's Dr Terry Goldsworthy. He spent 28 years with the Queensland Police Service before becoming an Associate Professor of Criminology at Bond University.
Here's my top footy